The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
She's got the 12-inch butcher knife, and she has it right by her side, and she's walking, and she's walking.
And it is true that whatever's going on in her mind, whatever's going on with her mental illness, the evidence will show that she got behind Wood and her child.
And she stabbed him in the side of his face. And then she stabbed me.
It's time for justice for Julian Wood. This hour, convicted killer Bianca Ellis is in court for her sentencing. The emotional conclusion to this case is just minutes away. And Irish firefighter Terrence Crosby convicted of rape. His defense attorneys are joining us live on the show this morning. Plus, Melodee Buzzard in disguise, brand new images to show you released in the investigation of the missing California 9-year-old girl. And mob money and X-ray poker tables. We're talking about the most shocking parts of the federal gambling scandal. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We got a great show planned for you, so let's get it started as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. Justice for Julian. That is what today is about, when defendant Bianca Ellis is sentenced for his murder. 3-year-old Julian Wood loved dinosaurs and the color green. And he tragically lost his life when Ellis stabbed him and his mother, Margot, in a grocery store parking lot in Cleveland, Ohio, back in June of 2024. Sentencing days, my friends, like today, are really tough because families only get partial closure. You know, it's never complete closure because the void in their hearts can never, ever be filled. Little Julian had his whole life ahead of him. It's like something out of a horror movie, how he was murdered. And for her crimes, Bianca Ellis needs to be locked up for the rest of her life. She also needs mental health treatment and monitoring so she doesn't kill anyone else. We expect her sentencing to get underway this hour. And before the penalty is imposed, we could be hearing from Julian's mom and Julian's dad and others in his life who are forever devastated by his death. So may God bless and comfort everyone who loves and misses that precious little angel so much, and may he never be forgotten. That's my opening statement on this Monday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
She stood up and stabbed him in the back. And he was crying. He was crying.
In Ohio, the case I was just talking about, the sentencing of defendant Bianca Ellis, expected to start up at 8:30 a.m. We're going to take you there live once it's underway. In New Hampshire, we've got defendant Dustin Duren returning to the stand to continue his direct examination. This guy is claiming that he had to shoot the mother of his children in self-defense. That's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern. And in Florida, we've got the state's case continuing in the murder trial for defendant Alicia Andrews. She's accused in the ambush shooting of rising rapper Julio Fulio. That's also getting underway at 9 a.m. Eastern. Right now, we turn to your top story, brand new images of missing child 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard. Take a look at these. Authorities are releasing these surveillance photos showing what appears to be Melodee wearing a hooded sweatshirt and a wig. Now, this is footage from a car rental business in California back on October 7th. This morning, Melodee's aunt is reacting to those photos. Elizabeth Meza spoke with Ashley Banfield on her show, Banfield on News Nation. Take a listen.
We haven't seen her in 4.5 years, so what we know her as, I mean, she was just a little 4-year-old girl when we had known her. But that nose definitely reminds me of her dad's. So yeah, it does look like her.
All right, now investigators say Melodee and her mother, Ashley, rented a car and went as far east as Nebraska. By October 10th, Ashley returned to the family's home without her daughter, Melodee. Melodee was then reported missing days later. Her mom has not been cooperative in the investigation. Why not? Let's talk about it. Let's bring in our guests. Let's bring in licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Jamie Zuckerman and high-profile criminal defense attorney Mario Gallucci. Good morning to you both. All right, so let's talk about mom's lack of cooperation. Dr. Jamie, what does that say to you, please?
Yeah, so I think with the information that we have, or lack of information that we have, we can look at it in two ways. She's either trying to hide her or harm her. And the obviously not cooperating is a big red flag. The degree to which mental health influences that, we're not sure yet. But regardless, it is a red flag because, as any parent, a parent myself, if your child is missing, you're going to do everything you possibly can to find them.
Exactly, Dr. Jamie. I know you'd go to the ends of the earth to your kids, God forbid, if there was ever a situation like this. Any loving parent would. This mom, I'm of the opinion they need to cuff her already. Bring her in. She was the last one with her daughter. Mario, let's talk about that if an arrest may be imminent from mom. So I have some information from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office. So they're saying the timeline of Melodee's disappearance has been narrowed to October the 7th, when we definitely know she was alive because of that image we just saw at the rental car place, and then October the 10th. Investigators confirm that she was seen with her mom on that trip. Ashley returned home to her residence on the 10th of October with the same vehicle that she rented on the 7th, but her daughter was not with her. 3-day road trip went to Nebraska. The return trip included the state of Kansas. So this is why, my friends at home, the FBI is involved. We have potentially crossing of state lines going on here, maybe committing a crime, maybe, don't know. As of the time of this update, the last known sighting of Melodee alive is on this 7th day of October. She looks like she's wearing a wig, investigators say, that may be darker and straighter than her natural hair, which is beautiful. It's dark in color and it's really, really curly. So why alter the appearance of this child? Mario Gallucci, what do you make of some of these facts? The appearance altering, the car rental, mom's return home without her little girl. Was she getting arrested this morning?
So it's certainly troubling to me that a mother wouldn't cooperate in the investigation of a daughter's loss. And although generally you can't be compelled to cooperate in an investigation, this is different. This is a child and a mother. So a mother has a duty of care to the child. Here in New Jersey, we have Kaylee's law, where you have to respond, you have to alert, you have to put the authorities on notice if your child is missing. In this case, she didn't do any of those things. It was the school that notified the authorities that the child had not been in school. So yes, I believe she's got a duty of care to this child. I mean, certainly neglect charges could be brought against her for not cooperating in the investigation. So I think that, over the next coming days, you're going to see that this is going to get ramped up very, very much so to find this young lady.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Mario. Dr. Jamie, I want to talk to you about what appears to be a mental health component to this with Ashley Buzzard. I have a clip from her mother, Melodee's grandmother, speaking out. Here we go.
About 15 minutes later, a sheriff calls me. He says, I'm at your daughter's house in Orcutt, and I was just getting ready to take your granddaughter Melodee with me to CPS because we're getting ready to take your daughter to the hospital. The house was in disarray. There were raw eggs in pans. There was rotten food in the fridge that I think she was trying to give my granddaughter.
Oh, my gosh, rotten food in the fridge. Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, what do you think when you hear even just this little clip? What does it tell you?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a history of mental health problems that, again, we don't know the extent, but from what it sounds like with the disorganized behavior and the pattern of that and the neglect, also her perception, it sounds like, of her care of her child is off. So we don't know the extent to which she is aware of her actions, so to speak, in terms of, is there a history of any type of paranoid schizophrenia, any type of manic episodes that would, cause her to kind of detach from reality? Or is this neglect, fully aware of what she's doing? We don't know yet kind of which path to take, but those would be my two takes on that for now until there's additional information. But when you have this kind of mental health condition, and it is that severe, along with that is going to be a lot of neglect within the household. Hopefully there isn't any abuse, but oftentimes we do see that. So I think we need to obviously get more information, but with the history and the pattern of behavior, I would kind of go in that direction.
Yeah, a really smart analysis, Dr. Jamie, thanks. Mario, let's talk a little bit more about the steps investigators may be taking right now. In terms of Ashley Buzzard, is she a nowhere street for investigators, or would you suspect that they are going to possibly be surveilling her and looking for more information from her?
Without a doubt, they're going to be surveilling her, and they're probably tracking her cell phone right now, trying to find out the GPS movements of that cell phone, where she was, where that cell phone is pinging. I mean, it's pretty accurate now that they can determine where that is. So I'm sure they're doing that. I'm sure they're combing through all of her social media accounts, or everything, her telephone records, her car GPS, the GPS on the Enterprise car that she rented. So those are all the steps they're going to be taking in order to find this little girl. And probably even do some research to find out, is there a history of abuse? Were there any reports prior to this that occurred? Are there any witnesses that she mistreats this girl? I mean, what did the neighbors say? So they're going to be, this is going to get ramped up very quickly, to search for this little girl. It's very odd that a mother would not cooperate in trying to find her own daughter.
You're exactly right, Mario. A helpful insight you're sharing with us. This mother, she's going to be in a world of trouble. I have a feeling, and I think very soon. They were giving her a window. They had initially announced that she was going to be arrested if she didn't produce the child. I don't know why that hasn't happened. Maybe they haven't found her. Maybe she's gone somewhere. We're monitoring this one very closely. Speaking of Melodee, let's focus in on the child now for just a second. Kind of forget about mom, but just think about Melodee Buzzard. So this child is 9 years old. Dr. Jamie, when we think about the wherewithal a child at that age may have, do you think she may know she's in danger, or may even have the ability, God, we all hope, to help herself at this point?
We would hope so at 9 years old, from a cognitive standpoint and what she's able to understand. A big part of that does rely on the context of her home life and her upbringing, what's considered normal to her, what's abnormal to her. But I can't imagine that if she's in some sort of disguise, goes on a road trip from, across different states for days. I can't imagine a 9-year-old is not scared, even if mom is telling her, you have nothing to be scared of. We don't know what mom's telling her. Like I said, she's either trying to harm her or hide her, for what reasons we don't know. So I cannot imagine a 9-year-old would not be frightened. And as far as, is she able to reach out for help? Does she have the ability to understand that? I think it really depends on the context and what's happened in the past. Has she in the past reached out for help to adults or neighbors and gotten in trouble for that? It may make her less likely to reach out now.
Excellent points. Dr. Jamie Zuckerman, I know we have to let you go get on with your day. Thank you so much for your insight and expertise. Friends at home, do yourselves a favor. Follow Dr. Z, psychology experts. I live for your videos. Love them so much. Join her community, and we'll see you back here very soon, hopefully with good news that this little girl is alive. Attorney Mario Gallucci is coming with us. We want you to do the same at home, please. Go get some more coffee. We got a great show still coming up ahead. Here's what's next.
Also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra, to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
X-ray tables and rigged shuffling machines. We're talking about the most shocking parts of the federal gambling scandal. Plus, we're looking ahead to Irish firefighter Terrence Crosby's sentencing, happening this week. His defense attorneys are joining me live here on the show this morning.
The Court TV podcast will return.
And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation.
The federal gambling scandal rocking the NBA continues as a trending topic, with alleged criminal behaviors resembling the movie Casino.
Now here's this guy reading the dealer's hole card and signaling his buddy at this table. And that's just what these hustlers look for.
Oh, I love that movie. How about you? So this popular scene we're showing you here focuses on the casino catching the scammers. But federal authorities allege that the Mafia coordinated and operated these poker games to reap the benefits from what these victims lost. Now, the U.S. government is releasing photographs showing some of this technology. Look at this. This is what they say was used to rig these poker games, including card reading contacts, X-ray poker tables, rigged shuffling machines so they can know who's going to be the winner at the table, who's going to get the winning hand. And according to authorities, this was all to benefit the Mafia. And the allegations allege that Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups was part of this. That is the allegation. So part of this is that celebrity type players that would entice, the high rollers to come in and play these games were brought in, and they're saying that Billups is one of them, and that members of the Mafia who are backing these games would receive the benefits because of everybody knowing who would lose. Let's talk about this. What's the most shocking part of it for you? I'm amazed at this technology. That's me. Let's bring in high-profile criminal defense attorney in New York and New Jersey, Mario Gallucci. Mario, my first question to you is, have you got a call to represent anybody yet? If you haven't, I'm sure you will at some point. We got a lot of defendants on these two indictments. So one of them, as you know, deals with betting on the NBA games. And there were some NBA players alleged to have shared information about, being injured or not finishing a game, things like that, so that people placing the bets could have an advantage. And then there's, of course, the poker games and, the video just starts. It's like Casino. Mario, what, if anything, here shocks you the most about all of this?
How coordinated this was. The technology they used, how coordinated they were able to put this together. I just stood with some of these people last week in the Eastern District. We took a plea on a enterprise corruption case in the Eastern District with some of the people that are now charged in this indictment. So yes, I have received a couple of phone calls, but this was a very intricate scheme using high tech, involving many different moving parts. And it was very coordinated, very, very coordinated. So they did a very good job here until they got caught. And you always get caught.
Isn't that the truth? I know. And then they call you, Mario. Let's take a listen to Kash Patel, the FBI director, talking about this. Here we go.
As you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
So let's talk a little bit more about Chauncey Billups here. So here's a statement issued by his attorney saying, quote, to believe that Chauncey Billups did what the federal government is accusing him of is to believe that he would risk his Hall of Fame legacy, his reputation, and his freedom. He would not jeopardize those things for anything, let alone a card game. This is from his attorney, Chris Haywood, submitting that. Now, Chauncey Billups has been released from custody. He was arrested on this, and he is out on bond right now, but facing those charges. So here is a little closer look at the allegations. So the organizers, the feds say, are New York Mafia crime families, and they're saying that they enlisted the help of really popular and respectable figures like Chauncey Billups to sit at the table to help make these games appear more legitimate, so that these high rollers would feel comfortable placing the big bets. These defendants are accused of using a shuffling machine to actually count the cards and know who would have the winning hand. And so it was a huge setup, according to the feds. Everything would be communicated. They would transmit the information from the shuffling machine, somebody sitting at the table who would then know, and then would use hand signals like touching certain poker chips to communicate it to others on the scene. They used decoy phones, marked cars. They even had special contact lenses and special eyeglasses. Mary, I don't know how anybody would feel comfortable playing poker again after hearing about the technology that's out there to cheat.
Unbelievable. That's all I have to say. It's unbelievable the length that they went to cheat. But, you know, Kash Patel's had a lot to say and said nothing. I mean, where is the proof that Billups actually had knowledge that this was going on? Where is the proof that he actually received the benefit to sit at that table? So I think over the coming days, we're going to start seeing what type of evidence is available, you know, to tie Billups to this and these other celebrities. I don't see anything out of Kash Patel's mouth that says that they have proof that they were paid or they benefited from this or they were involved. So over the next coming days, I'd like to see what evidence that they come up with.
Spoken like a true defense attorney. I love that point. Let's dovetail off of that. Let's do some more analysis, Mario. So let's think about what they would have to tie him to it, because if he was an unwitting participant, let's just say there are cheaters, you know, rigging this to you know, get the payouts, but they invite him there just to, hey, come have a nice, you know, game and, you know, have some drinks and some good food and whatever, enjoy the evening. And if he's unwittingly participating, he walks, right? How might they tie him to this? Are they looking at bank records, wire transfers? What do you think is going to be the big tell here?
Well, they have to find an agreement. They have to find that he agreed with them to take these players' money, and that as part of that agreement, he was going to get a benefit. You know, there's more to it than, you know, hey, why don't you play in this game because you're a celebrity and other people are going to play. I mean, if he doesn't know that the game is rigged and he's not receiving a benefit to play in the game, then he didn't do anything wrong here. So I think right now they're probably looking at his bank records. They're probably trying to determine whether or not he did receive any money to sit at that table. And by the way, just receiving money to sit at the table does not mean that he committed a crime. I mean, these celebrities are often asked to go to events, and they get paid to go to these events because it brings in other people. So just getting paid to sit at the table without knowing that the people at the table are being fleeced it's going to be very difficult to prove a case against Mr. Billups here if they don't have that type of proof.
Another good point. You're full of them, Mario. You're right. You know, another good point. If it's just a paid appearance, we see that all the time. You're right. Clubs. I mean, I've seen it. Celebrities. Yeah. So we'll see what happens here. This to be continued. As they said, there could be more arrests here, so we'll see what the far-reaching implications are for the NBA, for the families, the Mafia families allegedly tied to this. Mario Gallucci, great insight. Thank you kindly. We're going to hit a break. I want to show you a live look at the courtroom where child killer Bianca Ellis is set to be sentenced any minute now. We're getting ready for this hearing to start up. We will go there live when it does. And we're spotlighting the recent rape trial of defendant Terrence Crosby. He's the firefighter who's an Irish citizen on trial in Boston, Massachusetts, convicted of rape. His defense attorneys join me live next.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. This morning, we're spotlighting the Irish firefighter rape trial of defendant Terrence Crosby. His defense attorneys are speaking out this morning after the jury returned a verdict of guilty.
What say you, Mr. Foreperson, as to indictment number 2024-00244, offense 001, rape? Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Guilty.
I want to welcome Terrence Crosby's defense attorneys in now, Daniel Riley and Patrick Garrity. Good morning to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming on the program. I want to start with just your reactions to the verdict that came in on Friday. Daniel, I'll begin with you, please.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for having us. Obviously, we're very disappointed in the outcome, as is Mr. Crosby and his family. It's very difficult to take a guilty verdict in any case, particularly this case where we thought we had raised some sincere and legitimate reasonable doubts. Obviously, he's a young man with a family, and so it's particularly hard, and he's been away from them for so long. So I think he's taking it very, very hard. His family, again, taking it very hard. And nobody likes these cases in terms of trying to say that one person did something wrong or one person is denying it outright. Who do you believe? Who can you trust? Both parties are saying that it wasn't me. I didn't do it. Yes, you did. And so clearly the jury chose to believe one of them and disbelieve the other. And so that makes it even more difficult for Mr. Crosby to continue on.
I wanted to ask you both about his family support. We noticed there was a woman sitting behind your client during the verdict announcement. Can you tell us who that woman was, please, Daniel?
I assume you're referring to his wife. She came over from Ireland, was here for the case. Yes, that's his wife. Obviously very distraught, very upset by hearing the verdict. She supports him, has supported him this whole way. She was here for the first trial. She was here for this trial. And of course, as one would imagine, very, very upset.
We thought, we didn't want to assume, but we thought either wife or mom. And let's continue talking about that. Patrick, I want to go to you next, please. Your reaction to the verdict, and if you'll also speak to the family support that your client has.
Yeah, absolutely. My reaction, you can kind of see it a little bit in the video. I immediately dropped my head. I was in disbelief. This is a close case, and there's a reason why the first trial ended the way it did, and there's a reason that the jury was out for as long as they were in this case. So I was a little bit shocked that they reached the verdict that they did, and you know, candidly, I still don't think they got it right. I still believe our client is innocent. As for the family, I can say that immediately following the verdict, I spent about 2 hours with them. Me and Dan had to break off. Dan went down to talk to the client, and I went with the family over to our office. And that included his wife, who I've remained in contact with over this weekend. She's still distraught, and included Mr. Crosby's father and close lifelong friends. And they were all in disbelief. In fact, in the clip that Court TV has of the verdict being read, you can hear his father just break down. And I know these cases boil down to a lot of emotion, but that emotion extends to the family. And as much as any alleged victim is infected, so is the client's family. And Mr. Crosby is just another display of how these types of cases can impact more than those that are in the courtroom.
Sure. Patrick, does Terrence Crosby's wife believe that her husband is innocent?
1,000%. From day one. She has stood by his side from the get-go. And she's never left, she's never wavered. And she's still continuing to fight regardless of the fact that the jury returned the verdict that they did. She is still fully by his side.
Has she shared why she believes in his innocence?
Because she does. She knows Mr. Crosby. She knows her husband. She knows the man that he is, and she knows that he's not the man that the complaining witness in this case is making him out to be, that the state is making him out to be. She knows who she married, and she knows that her husband is innocent, regardless of who's saying what.
Well, she also now knows, sadly, that he cheated because of the surveillance video shown from him at the bar, snuggling up to another woman. So does she really know him after seeing that?
Yes. I don't, candidly, kissing a woman at a bar is different than being a rapist. It's night and day. It's not the same thing. And to full disclosure, she was aware of that before the video even came out at the first trial, because he told her. She knows her husband. They have a very good relationship, and that's why she's remained loyal to him from day one and remains loyal to him now. So yes, she does know him.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen this week when your client is sentenced. A maximum of 20 years is the penalty in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the crime of rape. Daniel, let me go to you on this one, please. What's going to be the position for you in terms of what you're going to ask the court for and why?
Well, without giving too much away, Julie, I think in part it depends upon how the judge views it, as whether it's a guidelines type sentence. If the Commonwealth is going to be asking for an above guideline sentence, certainly we'd be asking for what we feel is the lowest reasonable sentence we can ask of Judge Wall. And for a number of reasons, certainly Mr. Crosby has already spent a good amount of time being held. He is a dedicated and long-time public servant, serving as a firefighter, serving as a paramedic. He has no prior criminal record. So with those things in mind, as well as the fact that a sentence served by Mr. Crosby being from Ireland, having to stay here away from family, away from that support, will be harder on him than it would be someone who's a resident of Massachusetts. And so for all those reasons, we'll be asking for a lower sentence than perhaps the guidelines, and certainly lower than what I expect the Commonwealth to ask for.
Can you tell us off the top of your head what kind of guideline range you're thinking about? Or are you thinking about something, like 2 to 5, 5 to 10, just to kind of give us an idea of where you are with the recommendation?
I imagine that this is going to be seen as perhaps a 5 to 7 on the guidelines in terms of years, that is. We would likely be asking for something along the lines of 2 to 4 or 3 to 5, and that I expect will be in contrast to the government, the Commonwealth, that is, asking for perhaps 7 to 8 or more.
Sure, understood. Was there any plea offer in this case ahead of trial, Patrick? Any plea offer extended by the Commonwealth?
No, there never was one. But even if there was, our client was never interested in taking one because he's innocent. And he maintained that posture from the get-go. He never was interested in pleading out. He was very interested in going to trial and fighting these allegations because he has said from day one he did not do this. And again, regardless of what the jury returned, what 12 people say happened may not be what happened. They may have sent an innocent man to jail.
And I want to clarify something for our viewers because we did not broadcast his first trial. So I want to make sure, did you both represent him in the first case as well? You
Yes,
did?
you did.
Okay. And so just to clarify, Patrick, before the first trial even, was there ever any offer then before the mistrial?
No, there was never an offer before the first trial, before this trial, or at any point. And again, he was never interested in taking one, ever.
And were these the same prosecutors, the same team that you were up against the second time?
Yes, it was all the same players, except for the judge. We had a different judge in the first trial, and we have another judge in the second trial. But other than that, everybody was the same.
Gotcha. So tell me, in addition to the sentencing, which I know you're prepared to undertake that this week, will there be an appeal that you'll be taking, Daniel?
There will be an appeal. We'll file our notice of appeal likely just after sentencing on Thursday. And I know I've been in touch with Mr. Crosby's wife. She's already asking for recommendations and looking into potential representation for that.
Okay, well, we will leave it there for now. But Daniel Riley, Patrick Garrity, thank you both very much for taking the time to come on the show and explain all of this to us. We'll see you later this week at sentencing. When we come back, returning to Ohio, we're going inside the courtroom for defendant Bianca Ellis' sentencing. She killed 3-year-old Julian Wood. We'll find out together what Julian's family has to say to the court before her sentence is imposed.
I saw a woman stabbing a mother and child. I saw the knife covered in blood. I saw violent motions towards a mother and her child.
This is the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back to What's Tipping the Scales of Justice. We have the sentencing starting up right now for defendant Bianca Ellis. Let's take you to Cleveland, Ohio, where she just walked in with her defense attorneys, who you've seen before on this program. They joined us after the conclusion of her trial, and there she is, no longer wearing the blazer that we would see her in at trial, and she is shackled because no jury. This is all judge today who's going to decide on her penalty. Let's listen live.
The requirements under the statute, one is that there's a duty to advise Ms. Ellis of a violent offender being found guilty on the aggravated murder, of some reporting requirements that she's to report in the event that she's placed back in the community. So Ms. Ellis, I'm going to address you on a few items that need to be addressed with you before I go into the sentencing phase. Ms. Ellis, you've had an opportunity to meet with your lawyers before coming out this morning. I have provided them the duty to enroll as a violent offender. I know they spoke to you about it, and I'll go through it just briefly. Your signature is on that form from this morning as well. And so I'll just ask you, Ms. Ellis, did you have a chance to speak to your lawyers about this duty to enroll as a violent offender this morning? Did you have a chance to discuss that? And did you sign that today? Yeah. Very good. Being convicted or being found guilty of this offense of aggravated murder, you are required to enroll in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish residency within 10 days of coming into that county. You're going to have to provide that sheriff a number of items: your Social Security, full name, residence, the information regarding this verdict from the jury, addresses of employment or school, driver's license information. All of that's required to be provided if given that opportunity to be back in the community to the county sheriff. You're required to provide fingerprints and palm prints, and after the date of initial enrollment, you're required to re-enroll annually as well. And that's something within 10 days of the anniversary that you sign initially with the sheriff. If you change any of your addresses, you do have to provide written notice to the county and the sheriff as well. Failure to do so, you could be charged with additional felonies by the prosecution. And having reviewed that with your lawyers, do you understand that, Ms. Ellis? Yes. All right, very good. I'm going to go ahead and sign. With respect to some other requirements that I'm required to advise you of as well, that I want to make sure I do before I hear from all the parties. So with respect to your verdict of guilty that was found regarding count 6 of the indictment, and for the record, for the parties, for the state, and for counsel for Ms. Ellis, the finding of the jury on count 6 and 7 were both felonies of the first degree. I'm going to use count 6 with respect to sentencing guidelines, the felony of the first degree regarding Reagan Tokes notification. So because it's the first felony of the first degree of which the jury returned a verdict, is there any concerns with that? Ms. Fralia, I do have to still advise, still understanding that count 1 will be controlling regarding sentence.
Correct, Your Honor. The state was going to elect on count 7 and have count 6 and count 8 merge into count 7. So we were going to elect on count 7 for sentencing purposes.
With respect to count 7, so let me just make sure. Okay, so count 7, the felony of the first degree, the court will advise Reagan Tokes. Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
And then all other Reagan Toke sentences will merge into that. So, Ms. Ellis, the legislature has put in an indefinite sentence that I have to advise you of regarding this count. Now we've agreed count 7, the court will move forward on regarding Reagan Toke sentencing guidelines. I know for some of you here in the courtroom, you'll say, why is he doing this? Well, to protect, again, due process and to make sure that I protect the record for the Court of Appeals. So let me just advise you on count 7, the sentence anywhere ranges from 3 to 11 years. Under the Reagan Toke sentencing guidelines, we'll go to the highest sentence and explain that. Under the highest sentence of 11 years, our legislature has now implemented an indefinite sentence. That indefinite sentence is really a mathematical equation. So if you take the 11 years and divide it in half, you then add it back to the 11 to give the sentencing range. So with respect to Reagan Tokes and count 7, the maximum sentence you could receive is 11 years, which is the minimum, to an indefinite sentence of 16 and a half. So dividing 11 is 5 and a half. Adding it back to 11 is 16 and a half. So I'm advising you, Ms. Ellis, the sentencing range on the maximum sentence with respect to count 7 will be 11 minimum to an indefinite sentence of 16 and a half. So do you understand that? Okay. Now I'll just read the requirements that the Court of Appeals has asked me to read. So I'll read it to you because I have to read it, but then I'll answer some questions if you have any. For purposes of just this count and all of the other sentence being merged into count 7 for Reagan Tokes, it's presumed, Ms. Ellis, under the law that an offender is going to be released at service of sentence at the expiration of the minimum term. So if it was the only sentence you were receiving, it's presumed that you would be released at the 11 years, if in fact that's the highest sentence that you receive, and any of the other 3 to 11. It's presumed also that you serve no more than the indefinite sentence. So the maximum I told you was 16 and a half. So that range, and the law says you should be released at the minimum, but you shouldn't serve more than the maximum indefinite sentence. If the parole authority is going to have a hearing to keep you longer than the minimum, they have to place on the record during that hearing. It's a hearing held at the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections.
The Honorable John Russo presiding. We're going to hit pause on the hearing because we could be hearing some victim impact statements coming up this morning. We'll return to Ohio in just a moment. Got to hit that break. And thank you for watching Opening Statements this morning. We'll be right back with Court TV Live. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.